So today I have a guest. He is an American guy but lives in Tokyo. No, actually lives in Japan, not Tokyo. And he speaks fluent Japanese. So I thought you might be interested like asking him or knowing how he lived here. So Bobby Judo!
Hi! I brought beer.
Thank you! So Bobby
Yep.
lives in what part of Japan?
I live in Fukuoka. I live in the southern...
It's like countryside.
Fukuoka? Fukuoka is like the 6th largest city in Japan, one of the fastest growing. I used to live in Saga, which is very, very countryside. But Fukuoka is only countryside to people from Tokyo.
Well, so I thought it was a countryside, but I guess not. But still, it's like isn't it a little more difficult to get around without knowing Japanese? Like compared to Tokyo, because like I always tell my viewers that Tokyo is pretty easy to get around.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the trains, everything has like English signs. But how about Fukuoka?
Fukuoka is not bad.
Okay.
When you get into Kyushu, which is an island in the southwest of Japan, it's a lot more rural. There are not as many foreigners. There are not as many English speakers. Fukuoka is the biggest city in the area, so that's kind of like the hub where a lot of foreigners congregate. But if you move farther out of the city, then really, yeah, you don't find a lot of English speakers. You don't find a lot of services for English speakers. So I'm always surprised when I come to Tokyo and I walk down the streets. There's so many foreigners that I don't stand out. I stand out in Kyushu, so when I walk down the street, people look at me. And when I come to Tokyo, I'm like, no one's looking at me. I don't like this.
So, well, cheers. Yeah. Thank you for the beer. This is a Kawaba Beer. This one is a Snow Weizen. And that one is, what is it?
This one is a Sunrise Ale. This is like a Japanese craft beer made in Kawaba. Cool, cool.
Itadakimasu.
Cheers.
Cheers. It's good.
Ooh.
You like it?
Yeah, I like it a lot.
It's a quite popular beer in LA, by the way.
Kawaba Beer? I haven't lived in the States in like 10 years, so I don't know. The last time I was there, I think it was just Kirin, Sapporo, and Asahi.
Oh, really? No, like a Japanese izakaya and like a ramen is a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know about Florida,
yeah.
but like in LA, like a Japanese is like healthiest food.
Yeah, ramen's not that healthy though.
Well, I don't know, compared to pasta? I don't know, or pizza. I have no idea. But people think Japanese food is so healthy.
Yeah.
So including ramen, they think it's healthy.
A lot of Americans, I think, tend to get the idea that Japan is closer in style to like a vegetarian lifestyle. A lot of vegetarians think if they come to Japan, they'll be able to eat whatever they want. You can't. There's meat and fish in everything.
Everything, and then we make broth from like pork or fish.
Or fish.
So if you can't eat them, we can't even use a sauce or anything.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of Japanese people that are that concerned about being vegetarian. So when my family came to visit, my aunt's a vegetarian, and I thought they could eat like a vegetable okonomiyaki because it just has, if you make it yourself, if eggs are okay, you can put eggs, cabbage, and flour as the main ingredients. But the okonomiyaki flour contained like pork extract.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's in everything.
It's really difficult, so you might as well give up and then eat them.
When in Rome.
Yeah. And also we don't do like huge meal. Like we eat
smaller portions. Yeah.
We eat like what we need. We don't make just to make it like extra thing.
Yeah. There's a thing called harahachibu, right?
Yeah.
Which means you eat 8/10 of your stomach. So you don't eat until you're full. You eat until you're 8/10 full. Yeah. Which I think is awesome.
Yeah. So like that's how you stay.
It is easier to stay healthy in Japan. Yeah.
But so that's a difficult part. But so I want to ask you, what was like the culture? Have you ever lived in Tokyo before?
I've spent a lot of time in Tokyo. I've never lived here.
But so what was like the first thing or like most shocking thing that like you were like, oh my god, I don't know what to do. Like
in
culture
Japan
shock.
Or in Tokyo? Or?
Coming from like Florida and you're here excited and you're like, what?
Well, the first time I came, I lived in New York for 2 years before I came to Japan. And the first place I lived was very, very rural. And I expected Japan to be like a different world. I expected it to be, you know, like a monastery or a temple in the middle of the woods on a mountain somewhere where
and the
everybody's
geisha walking
meditating.
around.
Right. I had that image. And at the same time, I had this like contradictory image of like Akihabara with like the lights and the trains and maybe like some sex robots or this crazy technology. And I got here, and the place where I was living was a small town, a lot of farms, dusty. They had like a DVD rental place. They had a 7-Eleven. They had a used car shop. And I was like, this is like my dad's hometown. It wasn't.
Which is where?
Which is in Missouri.
Oh.
Which is like the middle of nowhere. And I was like, it's not that different. The thing that shocked me most was that it wasn't as different as I expected it to be.
Okay.
But then, like you said earlier, in the countryside, I was really shocked at how like English just doesn't work. I think a lot of Americans, like they go places. It's funny. Americans tend to be like, you know, if you come to our country, you better speak English. But then at the same time, they're like, if we go to your country, you still better speak English.
I know.
So I thought, you know, I'd get by with English a lot more in the small town. Like you said, in Tokyo, there's such a foreign community here that it's easy to get by without Japanese. But in the countryside, you really kind of you learn or you sink or swim.
So, like, but were you interested in Japanese at all before? Did you study Japanese? Did you take any classes? Or you just kind of like, well, I'm going to go to Japan?
I knew that I wanted to go to Japan at some point. I had a passing interest in Zen Buddhism when I was in high school.
Okay.
This is, again, very different from Japan. Oh, this is a big thing that surprised me, too. Religion is not a thing here.
I don't have one.
It's not, like, Japanese people don't understand why foreigners are as into religion as they are.
Yes.
So, for someone to have their life, like, dedicated to Christianity or Judaism or Islam, in Japan, they have religions. There's Buddhism and Shintoism.
Yeah.
But they don't...
We have Christian, too.
Yeah, there are Christian people in Japan. But they don't play this, like, major role.
No.
For Japanese Christians, they probably do, because that's Christianity.
No, but I mean, like, I went to Christian school.
Yeah.
But my family isn't really.
Yeah.
That was the best school that I could get into. That's why I went to the Christian school.
Yeah.
But doesn't mean I'm Christian. Like, I grew up as Christian, but I'm not really that into the thing.
Yeah. So yeah, like a religion is not like the end-all be-all of how to live your life, like it is in the States. So that was surprising. And when I was...
So you said all of us like a Buddhist?
Yeah, I thought like, I mean, Buddhist and Shinto, but I assumed that it would be like a bigger part of your daily life.
Oh, okay, yeah.
People still observe holidays, they still visit temples and things like that, but it's not the same way like Christians or Jewish people or Muslims follow it that strictly and protect it that strictly. So when I think most Americans, because they have that religious atmosphere in their country, when they're younger, maybe in their teens or their early 20s, they go through this phase where they're like, what is religion and what is God and what do I really think about this? Yeah. Most people go through like a phase where they have to kind of figure out what they really think. Not just what they were raised with, but what they believe. And when I went through that phase, I got really interested in Zen Buddhism.
Okay.
And for me, like Japan was like the Zen Buddhist country. So after I got a little older, I kind of lost the interest, but I still had this strong positive association in my mind with Japan. So I knew I wanted to go at some point. I studied Japanese for a year in college. Okay. But it's mostly greetings. Greetings.
Ohayo, konnichiwa.
How to ask what time.
Okay.
That kind of stuff. So I had a small basic skill set. I worked in a Japanese restaurant in New York for a while. Where there was at least one Japanese person. Most of the other people were Indonesian or Mexican. But there was one Japanese person there, and he and I talked a little bit. Okay. But yeah, I wanted to live in foreign countries. Japan seemed like a completely different world, so I wanted to experience it. And I didn't have any money, so I applied for an English teaching program. Okay. And I originally came over as an English teacher.
Oh, so you were teaching English
I
for
did.
like quite a few years. So wait,
Three
so
years?
you've been here for 10 years now,
Yeah.
right? So I've been in LA for 10 years, so we are like completely opposite.
You left just after I got here.
Yeah, was
Yeah.
it like a few months? I'm like, see
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
Bobby. Right?
Yeah.
But so you were teaching English for like 3 years?
I taught for 2 years in
Okay.
a small school in the countryside in
Okay.
Saga, and then another year in another school also in Saga in Tosu City.
Okay, so is that how you speak Japanese? So everyone, Bobby speaks fluent Japanese, and it's like kind of weird.
I do okay. I think I get by.
You get by. No, like seriously, like living in LA, I forget like certain Japanese, especially like in business Japanese,
Yeah.
because I don't use it with anyone. So I kind of forget it. And he was on the phone like a few minutes before, and he's like using like keigo and everything. I was like, oh my god, what did you just say? So like I think everyone wants to know how you do that, because I know a lot of people who lives in Tokyo for like 5, 6, 7 years, maybe 10,
Yeah.
and they don't speak Japanese.
Well, there's a couple of things to it. I think there is an idea that some people have a better ear for language than others, but
For sure.
I don't
yeah.
think that makes that much of a difference. I think
Okay.
if you try and you really want to speak and you have the motivation and you really put in the time, you can get to a relatively fluent level. And there are some people who, they'll live in a rural area for 10 years like me and they'll still never learn. And then there are some people who will live in Tokyo for 6 months and they'll learn. So it really depends on the person.
Okay.
But if you really want to learn, for me the steps were study from a textbook so you get your grammar and your vocabulary down, and then whatever you learn, force yourself to use it.
Okay.
Even if you end up having these awkward conversations or like you're really obviously, whatever you learn, if you don't use it, you don't retain it as well.
Yeah.
I think they say in Japanese, 言語取得は水をざるですくうっていうような。This is something I've heard a lot. It's like learning words in a foreign language is like scooping water with a sieve. The water goes through it. Like you don't retain
you get
nearly
nothing.
as much as you get like a little bit, like the sieve gets wet.
Yeah.
But you're losing most of the water. So that means you've gotta give yourself as much volume as possible because
so
you're only gonna retain a little
Okay.
bit of it. So expose yourself to as much spoken, written Japanese as possible and force yourself to keep using it so you retain it. And then always ask people for help. Japanese people are so friendly that if you make mistakes, they'll just go,
Okay, well, I
and
have
they'll
no
just
idea.
let you make mistakes. You have to make sure that people around you know that you want to be corrected and helped and taught.
Yeah, because like a lot of times in LA, when they say like, "Oh, I'm Japanese," and they're like, "Do you speak Japanese?" I'm like, "Yes, I do. I'm from Tokyo." And they say like, "Say something." I have no idea what they said. Like, "Cool, you love Japan," and like I'm like,
Yeah.
"See," because I'm not sure if I should correct it or
It
not.
depends. I mean, if they're in Japan and they're a friend, I always make my friends aware that I want to be corrected because I'd rather learn and not make the same mistake again.
Yeah, well, same for me in LA because obviously I have like an accent or like I don't know certain words.
Yeah.
And like if I say like, oh, this word I don't know, then I explain, okay, do you remember that word? Or I show them like, how do you say this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's important to interact and to encourage people to correct you and help you.
But
And
like,
then just not to aim for perfection. Like I still have an accent on some words. I still have like certain go-to escape phrases that I use too much.
okay.
And that's okay. I mean, you're not a native speaker and you're never gonna be a native speaker. But as long as you're communicating and you're enjoying your life, it's fine.
But to like, at first, like if you don't speak Japanese, you can't make friends, right? Because most of Japanese people, especially in the countryside, they don't speak English that much.
Yeah,
Or-
yeah. You can make friends on a very superficial level. To make real friends, a lot of times the hardest thing for foreigners in Japan is that you feel like you're the perpetual outsider.
Mm.
You feel like people will be friendly to you on the
Yeah.
surface, but not really let you in.
Because that's a term we use, gaijin.
Yeah. So
Gaijin means like, gai is it's in kanji, it's like outside. Jin means like person, so like outside person.
Someone
It's a
from the
term,
outside,
yeah.
And it's not just like prejudice against foreigners, it's just Japan has this very strict culture of this is the in-group and this is the out-group. So even with companies, even with families, even with people from different areas of Japan, they have these in-groups and out-groups. But the biggest in-group is Japan, and their out-group is foreigners. So you can feel like gaijin atsukai, like you're treated like a foreigner and like you're not being let in. And the best way you can break through that is to learn to communicate as well as you can.
So you practice a lot by yourself? You watch TV or?
I read a lot of textbooks.
Okay.
I tried my best to blog in Japanese. I started a cooking blog in Japanese. Things that I enjoyed doing, I would try to do them in Japanese.
Okay.
So not just studying, but doing something. And
Okay.
I really love movies. And so what I found was really helpful was to watch English movies with Japanese subtitles.
But do they contain a lot of kanji?
They do. Your reading level has to be a little bit
okay,
better.
so you have to deal with a lot of studying by yourself.
Yeah.
Then next step you can.
Yeah.
Okay.
It does. I mean, your reading level has to be high to be able to follow the kanji subtitles. But if you can do that, it really helps because what you're listening to in English, you comprehend in English very easily. And then you see the subtitles and it lets you go, oh, this is a natural way to say this in Japanese. So like, a really easy example is in movies when people say, I miss you, the Japanese subtitle is aitai, which is I want to meet you. And it's because you could say like a more literal I miss you. It would be like, anata no koto o koishiku omottemasu.
That's
But it's so
weird.
unnatural, it's really weird.
No one ever say that.
Yeah, so that feeling of I miss you is the exact same feeling of I want to see you.
Yeah.
But a natural way for Japanese people to express it is aitai.
Yeah,
So-
because I think in like Japanese culture, we don't say things so direct. We don't really say I love you. I think I talked about it in my video before. I love you in Japanese is like 大好き. But that is translated to I like you a lot.
Yeah, I really like you.
Yeah, I really like you.
Which if you say that in English, it's like, you don't want to tell me you love me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like if your husband say like, oh, I really like you, then you'll be like,
Yeah.
yeah, I hope so. You don't love me, but like.
But the
in
feeling
Japan,
in Japan, it's the same feeling.
Yeah.
It's just a different way of expressing it. That I love you, the I love you from a parent to a child. That one a lot of times, like parents in English say I love you to their kids all the time. But in a movie you'll see like the mom tucking the kid into bed at night and she says I love you. And if in that situation in Japanese, if you were to say aishiteru to your kid, they'd be like, it'd be a weird thing.
Yeah, it's like I would feel like that person is going to die.
Yeah.
That's like the only time.
Yeah.
Yeah, the person is dying, so they have to tell the kids she loves her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in Japanese, a lot of times they translate that from like I love you to like you're a good kid. It's like for an English person watching that, it's like that's a totally different level.
But like
But
the feeling
it's the same
is same.
feeling.
Yeah, so I think it goes same to I miss you.
Yeah.
Because I said like, oh, I miss you to like my friends a lot. But if I say like, あなたのことが恋しいよ to my girlfriends in Japanese,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
like, what are you
Yeah.
about?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like a lot of direct translation could be really awkward, so that's a really good way to
That's
learn
a good way to
Japanese.
learn it and a good way to learn because Japanese is a language that everything you say changes depending on your character. So like for example, the way to say the word but. There's a million different ways to say but. You can say tadashi, you can say desu keredomo, you can say dakedo, you can say daga, you can say shikashi, you can say shikashi nagara. There's a million different ways to say but. But depending on your character, like I learned this from watching movies, tough guys don't say desu kedo. Tough guys say daga.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like Bruce Willis would never say desu keredomo in like a subtitle. He always says daga.
Oh, it's subtitled too?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because like that's like a masculine word. And then so like I use a lot of demo.
でも
I think it's a little girlier.
でもさ
That is kind of like a little girlier.
Yeah, based
Feminine?
on gender, age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like we have to use keigo to like older person. So like it's just so many ways to speak Japanese.
Yeah.
So, but like, yeah, I guess that English
Movies
drama.
are a good way, or like
Yeah.
TV shows with Japanese subtitles are a good way to get a handle on that.